Hotel Hershey with spa, chocolate spa.
Okay, yeah.
All right, well, good evening, welcome back.
How about chocolate?
So, we have made it through the first 4 weeks of Turkey and most of Greece, and now we come to week 5, and our theme tonight is, it's Greek to me. So, we'll get into why that's our theme this week here in just a second. So, welcome to those of you that are watching online, those of you that are here in person. So, we are ready to get started, so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We
hold
should
on a
go to the
second
next
here. Yeah,
slide,
I'll
right?
Go to the next slide, yeah.
Can
I got it.
I got it?
There you go.
Great. So, yeah, that's my hand, by the way. And that's the real Parthenon.
Yes.
Yeah, we thought it would be a cool picture. It's
It's
kind
a
of a cool
great
picture.
picture. Good work.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you. We thank you for your true and constant presence in our lives. We thank you for this journey through Lent, taking us through Turkey and Greece and some of the ancient sites where your word came to your people. We pray that you be with us tonight. Help us to open our hearts and minds to see the whole world that you love, and to learn how much you have loved us throughout history and how much you continue to love us and call us. And we pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Great. Okay, so invite you to turn to your partner. You've all heard the phrase, it's Greek to me, which is a way of saying I don't understand, I can't make sense of something. So turn to a partner and share a time you had an it's Greek to me experience, or a time you used that phrase.
Oh, yeah.
Do you need a partner?
I've never used
many
it.
years
Never
ago
used
in
never used
school,
anything like
and
that.
trying to speak any language, there was. Also, as soon as anybody asked me to speak a language, that's Greek to me.
Pastor Brooke.
Did it help you on your trip?
A little bit, it's a different dialect. Some of the letters are similar, but pointing the Bible. Pastor Rick had it down. The King James Okay.
One language to another.
Good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Ancient Greek. I know my husband took 5 years of French, and when we went to Canada, and all he could read was the road signs.
That's something though.
There's slang. I mean, imagine learning English and coming here and
That's
listening to.
Here you go.
I made it on Dialing for Dollars with Mr. Papa Vegas when I was in 11th grade. I got to go on Dialing for
We
Dollars.
talk too fast.
With Mr. Papa Vegas. And we made Spanish copies.
Give you a
And I go to
minute
that
here to
little
wrap up your
That's what everybody said,
conversation.
how they wheeled, that was when they still wheeled the TV.
The old taps player now.
Like I want to squish it.
No, it's in the new taps player. There's a-
Pick it up, it's like a super duper font.
I think it's really cool. It looks fake.
It does.
But it's a real picture. All right, we'll come back together
Here's the.
and share. Does anyone have an experience that they want to share with the larger group?
Greek place.
Well, it's Mediterranean.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Anyone have an experience they want to share with the group?
We like baklava.
Okay.
Okay. That's a
I
Greek
can
word.
see how you got on that tangent. Yeah. Baklava is yummy.
When I was in 11th grade, I went to food service at Bosie's, and they still had Dialing for Dollars on TV. And I got to go on TV and make spani kopita with Mr. Papa Vegas.
You're kidding.
Yes, no, I'm not kidding. That was back in the day when they had to wheel the TVs into the room. So everybody could watch Rhonda on TV. But yeah, I got picked.
You were
on
famous,
TV.
wow.
I was famous in
Yeah.
my junior year of high
His
school.
autograph.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Any others?
Sure. When I was in college, I had to take statistics. My roommate, my best friend, was a math major.
Mhm.
She tried all semester to teach me statistics, and it was Greek to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
We actually
statistics.
Not pass.
this morning's session had a similar calculus. They said it was like I couldn't get that. I'm like,
Same
oh,
idea.
Yeah, that can be hard.
so great. All right,
Okay.
We will see if my remote works.
It's not gonna work at the moment.
What'd you do to it?
I didn't do anything to it. There we go.
So our faith focus tonight is seeking to understand other cultures and history
can help us live into being the welcoming and loving people God calls us to be. So part of our call, loving our neighbors, is getting to know them and understand them, and a lot of that's cultural, current, but also history plays into the cultures that we all live in, and that was one of the things Rick and I encountered on this trip a lot of. So yeah, so I'm going to look for a volunteer to read our Bible verses for tonight. Yeah, you weren't letting
Yeah.
me.
Oh, is it not working?
It's
Okay,
not
anyway.
working.
That's a capital. It's one of the capstones on like a column, but notice that it's menorahs. Right? There was a Jewish community that existed. This is from Corinth, which we're going to see in a little bit. So, just want to point that out since we're talking about, being the welcoming and loving people God calls us to be. There's a perfect example of it right there. So,
Yeah, great. So is anyone willing to read Galatians? Thank you. Go ahead, Jane.
Okay, Galatians 3:26-29. In Christ Jesus, you are all children of God through faith. As many of you as were baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male or female. For all of you are one in Christ Jesus. And if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's offspring, heirs according to the promise.
Okay, so I hope you can guess why I picked it, really because of verse 28, reminding us about the separate. And really back in the ancient world, when Paul was writing this in the first century, these were big divisions: Jew and Greek, slave, non-free, women and men. There were really big dividing lines between that. And to say something like this, there is no longer that, is just really, whoa, that's so new and fresh. And I think it's a good reminder of our gospel call, meaning to not put people in categories, but to put them in one category as God's loved people, no matter who they are. So, anything else jump out at you in Galatians? Have you heard these verses before? Yeah. Yeah. There is one of the liturgies, I think, in With One Voice
yes.
uses this.
Yeah, one of those liturgies. You hear this. This is a sort of a running theme through Acts. A lot of the book of Acts touches on this too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So.
I think the first verse is very important. It's because of Jesus Christ that all of us, whether we're Jews or believe in other gods, we're all
unites us?
children of God in His design, no matter what our faith.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
You got it.
Exactly. And and the other thing was Abraham's offspring. That the Jewish people really felt like Abraham's our ancestor. We can claim that. And he's saying that doesn't really matter who your ancestor was. What matters is Jesus has claimed you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right. Well, here we go into our first stop for tonight. Yeah, that thing.
Okay. It should work now.
Hopefully.
So our first stop for tonight, let's go visit the Oracle of Delphi. So this is the navel of the ancient world. Remember when we were in Istanbul, we saw the center of the world, where they thought was the center of the world. Well, the ancient Greeks thought Delphi was the navel of the world, the belly button of the world. And you'll actually get to see the actual belly button of the world. There's an actual thing there that says this. So it's a mountain city. So it sits on a mountain slope. Mount Parnassus, if you really want to know, it's up there pretty high. We stayed in a little town called Itea the night before we went there, and it was almost like a vertical drive up to get up there.
It was quite a drive.
You'll see why here in just a moment. So Apollo, one of the Greek gods, right? One of the Greek gods? Yeah. He is huge in this region of the world, and so most of the places that we'll see tonight has a temple dedicated to Apollo, Delphi included. So you'll get to see that. So they have a stadium there too. They have a theater. You'll get to see the theater. The stadium was kind of beyond where we walked to, but it's the big elongated hippodrome.
It was at the very top of the mountain, the stadium.
Yeah, where they had their gladiator chariot races and all that kind of stuff. That's where they used to have what was called the Pythian Games, which was a precursor of the ancient Olympic Games. So, which brings us to the modern Olympic Games. So this is one of the places that had one of those predecessor events. So they also have a little museum there on site. Actually, it was a decent sized museum.
Yeah, it was a nice museum.
That has a lot of the statues and sculptures and artwork and things like that from the Delphi site that they discovered that didn't get looted by Emperor Constantine. So speaking of which, Constantine the Great, he looted the city. I'm going to come back to the other notes in a second since I'm on Constantine here. You may, I don't know if you'll remember, but I'll show you a little bit later on, is there one of the statues that we saw in Istanbul, in the Hippodrome Square, there was that Egyptian obelisk with all the hieroglyphics on it, and then nearby there was this spirally looking thing that looked like it was made out of like weathered copper or something like that. That is one half of the serpent column that exists in Delphi, and it's still there. So we'll get to see the other half of it tonight, that the part that Constantine said, I guess I don't need that part.
Yeah, he looted it and took half of it to
Yeah.
Constantine. So, you know, I had a thought. It's like,
Yeah.
why did he do that? Because Constantinople, Istanbul, was declared to be the center of the world
Yeah.
by taking the serpent column from Delphi. He's symbolizing it's moved.
Yes.
If this is the real center, it's not the navel of the world.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of that earlier.
Constantine was big into showing just how big and mighty his empire was in Constantinople.
Emperor
so.
Constantine.
Yeah, what a guy. But anyway, so have you ever heard of the Oracle of Delphi?
Has anyone ever heard of the Oracle of Delphi? Okay. few
Okay,
have.
some people have. So anyway, that's a person that you can go to for advice on important decisions, whether you're an individual or a family or for a fee, of course. Governments also went there and asked for advice as well. So back in those days. It was established about 1600 to 1100 BCE. A major influence on ancient Greek and Roman religion, philosophy, and politics, thanks to that oracle, right on up through the 4th century.
Constantine.
So, yep.
Who kind of
Constantine.
said, no more.
Yep, Constantine said, that's it, we're not doing that
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
So it kind of fell by the wayside, and it was kind of got buried a bit. There are earthquakes in this area, and so earthquakes and landslides kind of buried the city and did it in for hundreds of years, actually. And then it was rediscovered in the late 19th century because there was a village that was established on the ruins, on that landslid earth. And they were using different parts of Delphi to build their own homes and things like that.
Kind of like we showed you in
What we
Aphrodisias
saw in
in
Aphrodisias,
Turkey.
yeah. So,
same thing.
So the archaeologists that were coming in are like, hey, can you guys get out of the way so we can dig up Delphi again? They didn't really want to do
They
that.
didn't want to do it.
So, but
Mother
an
Nature.
earthquake, another earthquake came along, and they're like, okay, fine, build us a new village over there. You can have Delphi.
It's our house, yeah, build us new houses.
Yeah. So that's kind of how that all worked out. So.
Kind of sad, but.
Yeah. So for the better part of the past century, it's been a national park site. So just so you know that. And this is what they think ancient Delphi looked like. This is a 19th century painting by a
Yes.
French artist.
So
I
this is a
believe.
hill. These are retaining walls. So it is really built. It's kind of hard to tell because it doesn't give you like the relief of how high it actually was. So up here's the theater, and then you can't see the stadium, but it's at the top, way up, and there is some ruins up there. We personally didn't walk all the way up there. I think one or two people in our group
Couple
did.
people did, yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a hike.
it's a hike. It's past here.
Mhm.
So yep.
Yeah, that column there, right in the center. You're going to see that in just a moment. See that? No, the statue column there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that figure with the
The Sphinx-like figure.
Egyptian-looking thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. The big temple. That's the temple to Apollo. That's where the Oracle of Delphi
Mm-hmm.
did their oracling. That's a word now.
Oracling.
Yeah.
We can make up words here.
We're making up words.
Yeah.
So the serpent column. See the big giant statue there, kind of waving high
this
to
the
the
serpent
right,
column?
left of that. I think that's the serpent column
I
right
think
there.
you might be right.
Yeah. All we have now is just this big long copper looking cheese doodle kind of a thing. But there was other pieces to it back then.
Yeah.
So, and then there's various other sculptures and things like that that kind of floating around here. So really fascinating place to go and check out. So, there's a 3D model of what the city looked like, so that gives you a little bit of a better idea of what things.
But
looked
still,
like
when you're
back then.
standing here, you know, you're like, oh, it's not that steep. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it kinda is, yeah.
Yeah, it
Is
is.
that built on a fault line?
I think all of Greece is.
All of Greece is, yeah, there's fault lines all throughout this
Yeah,
region,
it's-
yeah.
it's pretty-
So, and you'll see that, like, the mountains there, you'll see those in just a moment.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so, this is that statue again that we saw right in the center.
Sphinx
I
like.
actually have it here,
Mhm.
so I'll get in there a little bit tighter there for you.
Yeah, as you can see. So they reconstructed part of it, but this is all original. This is reconstruction. They found the paws, had to redo the shin bones and part of the wings,
Part of the wings, yeah.
but the face was intact like that.
Uh-huh.
Pretty good.
Surprisingly so, yeah.
Surprisingly so, yeah. Given what happened when Constantine sacked, for lack of a better word, the city, he burned a lot of things too. And we'll see
Yes.
that. We'll show you that coming up in this picture. So they burned a lot of the statues and things. They burned the bull. They were able to find this in the fire pit as the archaeologists were uncovering this area.
Is that
And
bronze?
reconstructed. It's bronze. It's a bronze bull. So the interesting thing is, like, I mean, that was pretty valuable to burn, but they burned a lot of idols and things that were valuable, just because that's what he wanted to do. So anyway,
Pretty much, so.
yeah.
There's a couple of the caretakers out of there today.
So there's a lot more in the museum, but yeah, it was stuff that we've shown you similar before. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, Rick made friends. And they escorted us over
course,
to the.
of course.
So yeah, we were in the museum first, and then we went to the actual site where they found everything.
Try your clicker now, I think it should be working.
But I like my pointer better.
Ah,
There we go. Now it is
There
working.
you go, yep.
So yeah, this is a view from the start of where we were gonna walk up, and you can see this is the road we drove on.
Oh, my.
It doesn't even make it look that steep, but it is. Then look, the road's back there. How do we get there? Winding around the sides. It wasn't like this, but it was long and winding and twisty, and so it was a very safe road. Just quite a drive. Quite a drive, but really pretty. And you can see the snow from the night before. Yeah, all around there. So, yeah. Yep. And there's me. And it was a little chilly, so.
Yeah, a little chilly, a little
chilly.
misty there.
You can see more of the walkway and the road here over that way. And then there's one of the retaining walls down towards the bottom, and then some of the columns they've uncovered. And then, you know
This
what
is a treasury.
Treasury.
So,
The
so
money
that's-
changers.
That's where you go to pay your fee to get your divination from the Oracle.
Yep. And then another, as we're walking
So
up,
that's more of a panoramic shot of the area, but
Panoramic.
yeah, you can kinda,
yeah, we're walking up this path here, heading that way, kind of meandering, wandering up, and then it started to drizzle, of course. So I took that picture.
you did. You did good with it.
Even
too.
though you put your name on it, I took that picture.
I'll fix it later.
It's fine. I'm joking.
I know.
But you can see how steep the mountains are and things like that, and how, yeah, it was quite a journey to get to Delphi. It was not easy to get to Delphi. That's part of the lore.
So Rocky, what altitude are you guys at?
That is a good question.
You above the tree line?
Oh, gosh, no, we're not above
Okay,
the tree
okay.
line, cause they're there, we're probably a couple thousand, we're up a couple thousand feet at
Oh,
least.
okay, just, okay.
Yeah.
Not up high enough to get to the snow, that's like up, you gotta get up about 5,000 to get to there, which we were to get here.
Yeah,
the
we
day
did
before,
drive
so, yeah.
over the mountain,
Uh-huh.
over the river and through the woods. So, yeah, and then another column, just more of a panoramic down into the area and some of the ruins. So, here's the serpent column. So, look familiar? Okay, next picture. See? There. That's in Istanbul, and that's here.
It's like a unicorn horn.
Yeah, kind of,
Kind of.
or narwhal or
Yeah.
something.
Or a narwhal.
narwhal.
There you go.
Uh-huh, yep,
It's the narwhal. horn,
there's the
so
two
yeah.
halves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, breaking it in half just to show his power, I don't know. There's, yeah. Who knows? They would, like we said, that when stuff we showed you when we were in Istanbul, it's like, why did they move this Roman obelisk here? To show their power,
Yeah.
you know? When you conquer a people, that's what you do. Yeah. This is the temple to Apollo, the ruins. It's big. It just doesn't look big because we don't have a person there to show you how big
Yeah.
this actually was.
This was down the hill from where we were, so.
Yeah,
can't
we're
exactly-
up above it.
I can't exactly tell, hey Serena, just go step over there and.
Right, yeah, it's like, no. I should have, so you could
Couldn't do that.
see how big it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was quite big, quite big. And then there's
Delphi, by the way, is 2,000 feet above sea level.
Okay.
So I just looked it up.
He
That's
just
a good
looked
guess,
it up.
I'm like,
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so
It
rocky
seems-
is this little.
It seems
Yes.
higher. It seems,
right.
it's just more abrupt
Gotcha.
and just not easy to get. If you don't know you're looking for Delphi, you wouldn't necessarily be able to find it. That might be part of it too.
Yeah.
So the only theater we weren't allowed to climb through, for some reason, they had it roped off, but yeah, one of the ancient theaters, of course. And then back, so up here is a wall, but there's a pathway. Okay, you can see right here, people.
Oh, okay.
Those are people from our group that went, there's
Yeah,
a
they're up there.
path that goes up and then you can go around. Rick and I went up there and took this picture.
Cool.
So that's from up there, and that's as high as we got.
Yeah.
Um,
So the mountain that this is on, Mount Parnassus, if you've seen some of the pictures of it behind there, that's 8,000 feet tall.
yeah, so quite a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not our group. That's another group that was actually from a Midwest college, I believe.
Yeah.
Was visiting. I'm like, I'm not getting close to the edge.
We're just
Me
hanging
and
on
my
for dear.
height.
We're just hanging on for dear life there.
I'm pretty good at pretending I'm not scared of the heights in the picture, but I can assure you that once I turn around, okay, one step at a time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's the navel.
There's the navel.
It's
So-
an Audi.
Yeah, they were joking. They were joking at the morning session about the Audi, and I actually gave in and bought an umbrella while I was there for €5. It was worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But then, so Rick didn't even realize he had a cat hidden in this picture. That cat's like, navel. Who cares?
That's right.
So
What is the thing made out of? Just a rock?
It's
Yeah.
just stone.
It's a stone.
it's
Yeah.
stone. That's just the area where
Carved stone.
the navel was.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I'm sure it looked much more ornate, back in the
Yeah.
heyday.
So
So-
I'm so the Oracle, the other interesting thing is with the Temple of Apollo. So you'd pay a fee to get a message from the Oracle, a message from the gods. And there's quite a few ancient stories, ancient Greek history of the pre-Greek people who consulted the Oracle and they got these confused. Some of those legend stories, with the heroes in it, have the Oracle in the story. That's where some of you are familiar with. So the oracles were women, and they would come out and they would speak in tongues, speaking in tongues, this strange language. And then it would be interpreted by the priest, who was a man. So I like to jokingly call it the original mansplaining. So that was how it worked. And so interpreting, they would say, usually a lot of them would just be kind of like Pythagoras,
Yes.
who is a name you might recognize from the Pythagorean theorem in mathematics. His parents came here to consult the oracle about his destiny. And that was one of the things they said he'd be famous or something, but he also
He was famous for the mathematical formula, but he was also famous for starting a cult.
he started a cult.
Yeah.
So we're a little famous. But,
Yeah.
Kitty, we got a kitty in that window.
yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh my
The
gosh.
orange one?
Whose kitty is that?
Oh, the gray one, okay.
There he
The
goes.
orange one is
Yeah.
Is that one that lives locally?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the cat that I get oracles from during the week. That's why my sermons are the way they are.
Yeah.
No.
Linda, were you gonna ask something?
Yeah, now, we haven't talked about how all those rocks got there it's all slaves, right? I mean, that's.
Usually
Yeah.
slave labor, there'd be skilled workers that would be paid a
Yeah.
wage, but most of the ancient world, the workers were
It's so
slaves.
sad to think.
It is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would conquer people, they would become slaves. You could be sold by your family to be a slave.
Yeah.
The ancient world was rough.
Mhm.
Was rough. So, yeah. So that is Delphi, and I'm going to come back to the whole the oracles having basically speaking in tongues. I'm going to come back to that
Yep.
as we go to our next site.
Yeah, and then this is our next site. So Corinth, Paul wrote this place not once but twice. So 1st and 2nd Corinthians. So this is getting very close to Athens now. This is not far from Athens. It's probably a couple hours from Delphi.
Yeah.
Because once you get down onto the mountains, so this is a seaside town on the Gulf of Corinth. So Paul lived here probably about 2 years or so, working with Priscilla and Aquila. Those
Husband
are
and
two
wife.
husband and wife team, that he was working with there to help spread the faith in Corinth. Paul was on trial here. I'm not exactly sure what the background is on that, but it is in Acts where he was on trial. So if you want to look into that a little bit more, we won't touch on it tonight, but so there's also a fountain here, another temple to Apollo, which is the biggest structure here. Of course, remember, Apollo's a big deal here. There's also an Acrocorinth. You've heard of the Acropolis in Greece, and I'll come back around to what that means. But all it really means is that there's a high part to the city as well too.
Corinth,
So,
high part.
So you got Acropolis Acrocorinth is the high place of Corinth. That's all that really means. There's also a temple of Aphrodite there too, one of the goddesses, ancient Greek goddesses, and then history didn't stop when the Greeks and Romans stopped. It continued on, and so there was also a Byzantine fort, not a Byzantine fort, but
Ottoman.
from that era, and then the Ottomans also built a fort up there too at this Acrocorinth. It's a very high defensible spot that you can see forever from.
It's a great
So,
strategic location
Yeah.
to watch for invading armies or threats. So
Yeah.
it's no wonder.
exactly.
That they did that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And nearby here, there's a canal that
Yay.
cuts through one of the thinner parts of the landmass between the area that Athens is in and then the area that Corinth is in. So it cuts between the Gulf of Corinth and the Ionian Sea. They first thought about this back in the 7th century BCE. It's like, oh, this would be a great idea to make this canal go through here. It would certainly help our invading armies. They tried to dig it in 67 CE, but didn't really get around to completing it until 1893. So it took a while, right?
Quite a while.
Yeah. So, it's not the biggest canal in the world, though. It is deep. I will give you from the land that they had to dig down to get to the water. There's quite a bit of height there to it, but it's only 4 miles long. It's only 80 feet wide. So you can't get like your modern day cruise ships through there. You can get like your Miss Buffalo sized tour boats to get through there.
Mostly
Some
tour
yachts
boats.
and
Yeah.
some other things like that. But that's about it. The Panama Canal, in comparison to this one, is 51 miles long, and it's anywhere from 110 to 250 feet wide. That's why you get those big, huge container ships that are able to go through there. And then, of course, we got our own Erie Canal, not too far away from here either. Only 351 miles long, and only 120 feet wide. So, I mean, you're not going to get the biggest boats in the world down the Erie Canal either. But just to give you an example of some of the other canals that exist around the world. So that's a map to the Corinth Canal. Yeah.
I just think it's so funny that the splash water park showed up.
Yeah. It
It
just
wasn't open.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a nice straight cut all the way through for 4 miles. So.
Yes, you can see the straight line. Yeah.
No,
so
you really
you can
can't.
see-
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah,
there,
it's
too.
really very. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, there's a better shot of it there.
yep, the water was very, very blue. So,
Yeah, definitely. And that was a pretty far way down too. So.
yep, there's me.
That's the best shot of the
I
whole
was
thing.
not as scared because the bridge just felt very safe.
Yeah.
Nice secure metal, high bars. Look at how. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it was up to my shoulder. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna fall off here.
Oh,
All right, I feel safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, yep. And then so this is the. Did you tell them about that?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. So this is a special bridge. It is one of a kind. The only one that there exists in the world. It's called a submersible bridge. So here it is, and then there's what it. There's cars going across it. So instead of so for boats to go through the canal, they need either drawbridges. So they're like, hey, what if we submerge the bridge? So they do. This bridge goes down about 50. I think it's 30 meters, maybe at most underwater. and then comes back up. So the boats will go across and then it'll come back up. It's not currently, it only works in the summer season. I think it opens in April, May. So we didn't actually get to see it, but if you have the ability on YouTube, you can look it up on YouTube, the Corinth Submersible Bridge, Corinth Canal. And you'll find there's a couple videos where it shows you. In the one video are British tourists, and they're pretty funny, but there's a bunch, when it comes back up, there's a bunch of fish on there, and then the birds are like, fish time! You know, a bunch of the fish hop back in, but.
Yeah, there's space in between the planks, so.
Yeah, there's space in between the planks, so that it's not just a fish catastrophe, but, you know.
We would show you the video, but it moves very slowly. It's like watching paint dry in this kind of setup.
I think
So,
it's interesting.
anyway.
I could have talked while we were
But
watching.
it's not like cables or gears, and it just goes like down the water, and then when it's
And then a boat goes across, and then it
right
comes
back
back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I think it's
And it's
pretty
the only one like it in the world.
Yeah, so this is a pretty busy place in the summer season, because we ate over here for lunch. They have a whole outdoors, so people will sit there and watch the boats go across and the
There's
bridge.
another view of it.
Yeah, and there's another view of it.
Yeah, that's from the restaurant.
The water was really blue.
Yeah.
So the picture doesn't do it justice. Just really pretty. So, and then we were at ancient
That was in
Corinth.
the Corinth.
So, archaeological site and museum. So the interesting thing, you would think that Corinth would have been a little more but I guess they just must have run out of money or something. It looks like they did a bunch of excavation and then stopped, and now they've got some young, it looks like doctoral students and archaeological students working there, because they had some displays set up in the little tiny museum kind of courtyard. It looked almost like a World War II building
Could have been.
that they turned into a museum, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So here's some of the ruins. We think this is
Odeon.
Odeon, thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember the name for it.
I like the council
The
chambers.
council
yeah.
chambers, and then, some pillars. So some of the
Those are big, yeah. those are
Greek,
big.
there's some Greek letters up
Yeah, those are actually rather short.
short.
Yeah.
And then you can see the different ornamentation
Capitals, I think they're called.
that they had on the columns, different time periods, different
Yeah.
artisans. That was pretty cool. So, and then here's another fun fact. So, you ever seen headless ancient antiquity statues from like the Roman era and stuff? Do you know why they're headless?
Earthquake or something.
Earthquake. So
Some.
I always thought that the heads just didn't survive, being buried or things like that. No, actually. So if you were a Roman official doing an entire, and you got appointed to a new city, say, you were the tax collector, you got appointed to a new city. Well, it was really expensive and cumbersome to take an entire statue with you. And so people would know who you were. You would have a bust, a head made like this. And when you went to your new post, you would put the head so they would know who you were. So the bodies were all pretty uniform on these and the statues. And our guide even said that they had found a place where tons and tons of heads had been thrown into a dump, basically, because these people had died and nobody wanted their heads anymore, because the Roman officials.
It's sort of akin for transferring jobs and taking the name plaque off your desk.
Yeah, the ancient world name plaque, your head. Whole new meaning to off with her head, right? Off with their head. So, yeah, and then here's the temple.
That's the temple to Apollo.
Temple to Apollo down there.
It's part of it anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can see the nice blue.
Yep, that's
The
the
Gulf of Corinth.
back there.
Mm-hmm. And more ancient ruins that we walked around. But yeah, not a ton, like I said, they didn't do as much here as you might think they would. But maybe they will do more. So,
That's the Agora.
Agora.
Yep. The outdoor open marketplace.
Outdoor open marketplace that we see all the time
Yep.
on the ancient cities. And
It's a
then
better
there's
view of the temple
better
of
view.
Apollo.
And then, so here's down here, and then this is Corinth. So you can see, this, we go up here in just a minute. You can see how strategic and how you really can see all the way around that whole area. Yeah,
Yep.
so, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
So then we got to it.
So Acropolis.
We had to drive.
Yeah.
We didn't walk, thank God. That would have been fun.
Yeah. They did, but
They
we
did. We didn't have to. We were on a time schedule.
That's right.
So, and the interesting thing is this used to be the way to go in. I now have it closed because it's not safe. So we had to walk around here and up here. So I tried to leave this way, and everyone's like, "You can't go that way."
You'll fall off.
So it started to drizzle again. So, and this is heading, so it's looking down.
That's not even all the way up, but you
Yeah.
can see just how far you can
How
see
far you can
how
see. This is
strategic
just on
this
the
really
one
was.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see way out into the Gulf. So, like, if there was an invading navy coming down, like you could take a nap, get back up, and be ready in plenty of time for them. To
Sit there twiddling
arrive.
your thumbs,
So,
waiting for them while they're out of breath trying to get to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's the Ottoman type structure
Ottoman
there,
structure.
the fort. Yeah.
that
so.
was rebuilt, reused, and made into a fort. So here's why. Yeah, we didn't get. Pastor Rick got to the next.
I got beyond that gate.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
beyond that gate too, but there was another gate and stuff. But the stones here were just really got slick when it started to rain.
It was very, very rugged. Like you had to really watch where you were planting your feet going up and also coming down.
coming down.
And it was probably at like, I don't know what, like 20, 30 degrees slope.
Yeah.
So like I was afraid like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna slip and like break my ankle like just like that or something.
And this was our next
Yeah.
to last day there, and the last thing we wanted to be was in the
Yeah.
emergency room.
Yeah.
So there was that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we were
we
also,
made it.
yeah, I think we probably would have been braver if it had been like day one. We probably
Yeah,
would
maybe
have
we
pushed
would've,
ourselves
yeah.
more, but I think we were pretty tired.
Yeah,
This
this
was
getting
like
toward
day
the end.
16. We're pretty tired.
17.
So,
Oh no, it is
17.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Yep.
They should see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
it.
that was Corinth.
So this is Kenkriye or Chentriye or however you want to pronounce that word.
We're not sure.
It's up for debate. So not much to say about this place except that it's a port. It's a port.
Port.
So on the Gulf of Corinth,
Yes.
ancient Roman port. So you'll get to see that here in just a second. Paul left from here on his last journey through Greece. He did 3 missionary journeys. The first one was kind of short. The next one a little bit longer, and then this one took him all the way into deep into Greece, into Athens and places like that. So this is where he left from to head back home. And it's only mentioned in one little spot in Acts.
Yeah.
So come to our Bible study in May, and we'll mention that one little spot because we're coming up to that point.
Yeah.
So it's a little shameless plug, but
There you go.
yeah. So that's about all I can say about it, aside from the pictures, which kind of speak from themselves. So
Yep.
so that's it.
Oh,
That's the
man,
port.
look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Look at
So
that.
this
right?
is the whole big area, and we'll show you some close-ups of here. But it's, I mean, they excavated it because it's a port.
Yeah.
Wanna go fishing?
So they, well, they, you know, they're kind of like, it's here. They've got it protected.
Yep.
You know, so
Yeah.
I believe right behind us was a military base.
A small one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a small
I think
military
so.
base. So,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really have to worry too much about it. But you can see the,
Yeah.
and then this area.
Yeah.
Looks
see,
like
see
they
the
were
floor there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see there's a column that's in the water
Yeah.
that they.
Which was impressive to actually be able to see that the water was like crystal clear. Like.
It was beautiful. It'd be
Yeah, it
great to
really
swim
was.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the warmer weather, and you know the local
Yeah.
wildlife.
They didn't have cats. They had birds.
No, catbird.
Had to represent the birds.
So you can see, yeah, they kind of recreated a little bit of the walkway here. So some of the older, this is what they uncovered. And these are the white is the stuff that's done to kind of make it look uniform.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So the next picture, you'll see the area way out there, out beyond the people there. That's our next picture right there. So this went out a lot further than what you see today.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, because the coastlines move over a couple thousand years.
mhm.
That happens, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it.
And that's it.
And
Yeah,
then-
that's about all to say about that. So yeah. So then, yeah,
It was worth the
it
stop.
was one of those places. Yeah, it was after lunch. We had a half hour and went there. So yeah. So and then we finally got to Athens.
Even though we'd been staying in Athens.
Even though we've been staying in Athens.
we were in a
for day.
hotel in
Yeah.
Athens, so
So-
finally got to see Athens itself.
So, remember the Acrocorinth that we just saw a couple minutes ago? In Athens, you have the Acropolis, which is just a generic term that means high city. That's all it is. So in other ancient Greek cities, you might have the Acroborea or something like that, or that kind of a thing.
But they might have just called it straight Acropolis. It's
They might
just
have just called it
Acropolis
straight
has
Acropolis,
become
yeah.
synonymous with
Mhm.
Athens. You know, everyone calls it the
Yeah.
Acropolis.
So different cities have their own Acropolis,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so, you might know more of this history than we do, because you may have studied it in school. But
Right.
so this Acropolis was built in the 5th century BCE, and it existed for centuries and centuries and centuries. The Ottomans thought it was a good idea at some point in the 17th century to store gunpowder there, and it blew up. Which is why the Acropolis, the Parthenon in particular, looks the way it does today. So they had a gunpowder explosion there.
And we have a member of my church who grew up Greek, and his family spoke of the Ottomans, blowing up with gunpowder. I mean, it was just a whole cultural thing that they never forgot. One of those unforgivable things. Yeah.
But the Acropolis is more than just the Parthenon. There's other things up there too. Off to one side, there's a Temple of Athena, which we'll get to see in a moment. There's what's called a Acropolis, which is just a gateway to the Acropolis up there, which looks just almost as big as the Parthenon itself when you're up close to it.
Yeah.
They also have a theater. They also have an Odeon. There's a couple of other structures and the statues that are scattered about in that area too, not just up on top, but down below as well. It's a whole big complex. And then there's also a museum that they keep a lot of artifacts and statues and things like that into. That's also nearby. I'll come back to that in just a little bit. So being that it's one of the probably one of the busiest tourist destinations in the world. And what we saw when we were at places like that in Istanbul, that there was a heavy police presence with Uzis and body armor and all that kind of stuff. The security at the Parthenon and the Acropolis was a little bit different.
This is Wayne. He's 6'3". Yeah, doesn't it look like a little Tyke's car? There is a real full-size police officer in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just were like,
That's
are we
an actual functioning police car.
Are we in the Muppet movie or something like that? It's kind of
That
funny.
was kind of interesting. But think about it for a second. In our country, if there was like an event going on with like a lot of people that gather together, how do the cops get around? They don't get around in their big, huge cruisers and SUVs. They take ATVs and bicycles and things like that. So this is just their version of that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
and don't get me wrong, there are cameras and heavy police presence everywhere there too.
This was the one site that really had the most because it's
Yeah.
such a high
Yeah.
What do you
tourist.
think, it would take like 7 people to pick it up?
Probably our group could have
thing?
picked it
I
up.
don't know.
I'm
We
sure.
probably could have picked it up.
I'm sure. But it was funny. Somebody said, "How do they get in and out?" I'm like, "I don't know." I wasn't gonna go knock. I was tempted to go knock. Can I sit in the police car?
Yeah.
I don't think they would have let me, but it would have been fun.
We actually did see one going down the street in another place.
Yeah.
It's true, so.
Someone driving it.
But
So
yeah, just
funny.
like their version of the ATV. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, very cool. So there's the theater.
That's the theater.
So the theater in Athens actually has been restored and does get used for concerts. So they're usually in the summer they'll have, I think the only year they didn't have concerts here was the year of the pandemic, 21, 22, or 20. So, so you can see how they've redone a lot they
I think I've had some big names there too.
Yeah, they had PBS showed a couple concerts there, probably, a
Oh,
couple-
yes.
they had
There you
PBS
go, yeah.
they showed the,
Case in
you know,
point.
the guys
Live at
that
the-
sing, the blind
yeah.
guy,
the three,
the 3 tenors or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think
But
of
yeah,
it.
there's been a couple concerts that they've showed it on PBS there.
Yanni, live at
Yanni,
the
yeah,
Acropolis.
yeah.
That's it, Yanni. I
Okay.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very, very pretty. And we lucked out, the weather was gorgeous that day, but it was windy, so it was a little chilly.
So if you're sitting in that theater and you look up the hill, you see the Parthenon,
Yeah,
which is lit up at night. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's-
it's really cool. So, and then this is the gateway.
that's a Acropolis. Yeah, the gateway
Acropolis.
to go up into
So
the
walking
Acropolis.
up through here,
Yeah.
and steps and stuff, and
Yeah.
it was, I mean, it's not tourist season and it was still really busy. You have timed entry tickets, so you have to hit the time. So you need to get tickets in advance. If you just show up in Athens and you show up, unless the weather's really bad, you're not gonna be able to get up.
Unless you're a tour group in January.
Well,
Do they
Yeah.
time how long you're in there? Do you have to get out?
I think they say about an hour. I mean, they don't kick you out.
But it's still.
But I think she said the height of tourist season, it's really bad. So just
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
busy. So whereas with us, yeah, it was sunny.
Mm-hmm.
There's us again,
Yeah.
doing our selfie. and
That's
then
right.
just the entryway.
Yeah, it's the
and
gateway again.
So you walk through here, and then you see this.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
So, and they're still they're still working on reconstructing and making it. So, yeah. So there's a picture of us again, of course. But here, give you perspective on how big. I'm 5'6", so that tells you how big. And I'm pretty much right at the step. So, close to the step, so you can see how big. How big
It's
it
just super big.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's Temple to Athena.
Temple to Athena, yeah, so this is off to the left of the Parthenon that's there, so.
Our friend Harry, this morning, he's Greek and has visited, he's been to Athens twice now. He brought a statue of a replica of one of these this morning. I should have asked to borrow it for tonight.
I know.
He would have let us.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. So that's the temple to Athena that they
Yeah.
reconstructed. So, which is very neat. But yeah, you can see there's a normal sized person. So it shows you how big the area is.
Where's the
Point to
person?
the person again.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Right there.
Holy
One of that little blue thing.
Yeah, yeah, normal sized person.
So,
How big things are. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
person is
Perspective.
right there.
Yeah. For those watching, and then these normal sized people. Yeah, it's no words.
Yeah.
So no words.
Breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, and
definitely.
then you can see the rest
Yeah,
of the
another angle.
city of Athens.
Oh.
So, and then the back. The
What a
back.
view.
And then, oh, you can kind of see, this will show you what this is when we
up
get
there,
to,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's the
that-
horses, yep.
Yeah.
There's 4 horses
So
up
that's,
there.
there's a replica of that in the museum that we'll be showing you. So, good to point that out now.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
they've got part of it put together, but not all of it. I think that's what they're working on the other end.
Mhm.
Yeah, so.
So that's their Odeon.
Odeon.
Remember that council meeting place.
But not as renovated as, so.
Great, so, and then you can see pretty far from up here, so you can understand why the Ottomans thought it was a strategic location to store their gunpowder. You can see people coming from pretty far away up there too.
So I can blow myself up.
Yeah, I don't know, but tucked away in one of the hills, probably about I don't know, maybe about a quarter, half mile away, is this stadium, which you might actually recognize a little bit more because this is the Pan-Athenian Stadium where the modern Olympic movement got its start in 1898. So this is where also we're going to come back around to this too, but it's where the torch relays get started nowadays. But it is
We have
much
pictures
older
of
than
this a
that.
little
So
bit.
yeah, I've got a couple better pictures of that.
What's
Sorry?
that?
Those are houses all back up.
Yes, I was gonna
Yeah,
point
those
that
are
out
all,
because
like,
this is all like regular
Buildings,
houses.
residences, probably
Yeah.
mostly apartments and stuff like
Goodness.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first it was stove, then you know.
No.
Oh, no.
No, those are houses,
No.
apartments. Yeah, yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So after leaving the Acropolis, we
After
went.
leaving the Acropolis,
We didn't
went
really
back,
leave. We just walked down the hill.
we went back out through that gateway, back down the hill, and then there's an outcropping not too far away called Areopagus Hill, or Mars Hill, if you will. It's a prominent rock outcropping. There's no buildings that are standing on this
Anymore.
rock anymore, but in ancient times, there were buildings that served as a place for, they had court trials and legal proceedings back then. This is where Paul came to preach when he was visiting in Athens in Acts 17. So if you want to hear more about that, there's your Bible reference for that. So Paul preached there, and then since that time, the site also served as a Byzantine church and a monastery.
No longer there.
They're
either.
no longer there either. So it's basically just this big chunky rock thing just sitting there nowadays. So.
So
and that's it.
it's
Yeah.
basically a rock. So there's a Greek dedication here, probably to the monastery and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm guessing it was destroyed by the Ottomans. That would be my guess, but I don't know. Or it could have been destroyed in an explosion. Who knows? But anyway, there's steps to get up to the top. So the steps are over there. So then we walked up, and then the nice thing about the hill is you can see the Acropolis up here. So this is the gate where we walked up. It gives you a better perspective on where we walked up. We walked up through here and then through
There's
here.
a better picture of it coming
and
up.
then,
Yeah.
yeah. See, there's where we So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, we're way up
Yeah,
high.
see the ants up there? Yeah, that was us.
Yeah, these are the people.
Mhm.
Yep. So, and then there's our professor.
Yeah, that's not the Apostle Paul.
No, he wants to be.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
So Mark Vitalis Hoffman, the professor of New Testament at ULS.
Yeah, he's
so
the one that organized the trip.
organized
so.
the trip. So,
So we had to throw him in there at some point.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, but yeah, you can see. So, oh yeah, here we can point this out better.
Oh, yeah.
So in I believe it was during the pandemic, they tried to make the Acropolis handicap accessible. And for years and years and years, I guess they couldn't get approval to put an elevator in, and I guess they were able to push it through during the pandemic for some reason. Peggy, our guide, was telling us this. So, so there is a handicap elevator, but it only works about 50% of the time, apparently. So you're never sure if you can actually, if you have a loved one who can't do those steps, never 100% sure if you can actually get them up on the
When it
elevator.
goes up and it doesn't come down.
Right.
Right. Well, what happens if it breaks while you're up there? Yeah.
Halfway, you know.
Yeah. So there is
Well,
an elevator.
according to our person of Greek ancestry this morning, that's actually a pretty good percentage.
50% is good for Greece, he said. I'm like, okay.
I don't know.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Here that would
So-
never
So
fly.
Athens also has a Roman agora. Remember that open marketplace? So Athens also has one of those. Not too far from the Acropolis. We'll see the Acropolis from the market as well too. But there's different things that were there too. So they had a library at one point. They had a mint where they actually made their ancient Roman coins, those denariuses. They made those there. Another temple of Apollo.
Yep.
Remember, he's a big deal there. And then they also had marble works there too, where they were carving statues and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of statues in Athens for some reason.
Yep.
And then the 19th century seemed to be a good time to excavate a lot of places, and so that's when they excavated this too. They can only get so far because, again, this is in an urban place, so there's probably more underneath modern structures and things like that that they just
There's
can't
probably a
get
lot of
to.
stuff they haven't
Yeah.
uncovered, but
Yep.
you know, luckily the Acropolis sticks out. It's kind of obvious where that is. Thankfully,
Yeah.
that was never able to
Yeah.
disappear completely.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, it's a really pretty. But yeah, it just looks a lot like all the agoras and stuff
Yeah.
we've already seen.
Of all the places we've been, this one seemed to blend in the best with the surrounding area.
It did, yeah, because I mean, there's all these little boutique places. I mean, I believe this is a church.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a church. But yeah, you can see there's like boutique hotels and stuff around there. So a very touristy place. But
Like an oil painting, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, and that's the one entrance. We didn't go in. She just took us to walk around it.
Yeah, you can see most of it from the outside already anyway.
You can
So.
see how tired I am. I'm cold. I was a little cold up at the
Yeah.
Acropolis.
It was windy up there that
It was
day.
windy.
Yeah.
It was windy. Once we got off the hill, it wasn't quite as
There's
windy.
the
It was
Acropolis
pretty-
again up there.
Acropolis up there. There's the elevator. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah. I know. So, and then another view
More of the
from up,
Agora there too.
up high.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, so I mentioned the Acropolis Museum earlier. It was only open to the public in 2009, at least the current modern day structure. It was first sitting up on the Acropolis back in 1874. And it was up there for many, many years. But then they decided it would be better just to remove that off of their crowds, right? A lot of people up there. So they removed everything, moved it down. More than 4,000 objects they moved down along with it. So they have a lot of artifacts and things like that from the Acropolis that they built in there. So being that it was built in 2009, they decided, let's build it really, really good, because we do get earthquakes. So they actually built the place to withstand what they say, a magnitude 10 earthquake, which the Richter scale goes from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's supposedly they built it to withstand like the worst of the worst earthquakes. So it has yet to be tested.
The rest of Athens will collapse, but the museum,
museum
will
will be okay.
survive.
Yeah. Mhm.
If they get a magnitude 10.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in theory.
And then
So,
Pastor Rick drew a box around it.
yeah, I
That's
drew
the
a box
building.
around it. So there's our Odeon from earlier.
Yeah.
And there's a museum just off to the side there. So we'll get in a little bit closer there for you. So very modern structure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So yeah, just a neat,
Yeah.
neat place.
Yeah.
So, and then we don't have too many pictures in the museum for a couple of reasons. We saw most of what we wanted to see up at the Acropolis, and then a lot of it was, you can kind of go online and see anyway, but this was also at the very end of our trip.
We were
And,
exhausted.
we were done. It was time to go home. So,
Well, and I wish I had known, like, our guide, a couple people, we didn't realize this, asked if they could go explore the museum on their own. I didn't know we could do that. So, or I would have, because we didn't get to do that down here. So what they did was they also built the museum on top of some of the ruins that they've been excavating.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's there in this picture. Someone lost their hat.
oh yeah, I
Into
actually got a
the
picture
ancient
of it.
ruins. Remember we first showed up, this
Yeah.
this woman's hat blew off and went down
Actually,
there.
that's the hat falling down.
That is the
It's
hat
not down there
falling
yet.
down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't realize I got
I
that.
forgot
Oh my
about
gosh.
that until I saw. I was like,
Oh,
wait,
that's
that's the
fun.
hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you walk before you even get into, there's this area, open area, and you can see some of the down. We didn't get to go down there, which made me a little sad in hindsight. But
Yeah.
I was too tired to really
Yeah.
see too much. So, but
Uh,
yeah.
But this was neat too. I mean, I got some pictures of this anyway. This shows the sort of progression of the building of the Acropolis.
1200.
So this is 1200 BCE.
Mm-hmm.
They call it BC, but they're wrong. Yeah, the museum's wrong. I know. I don't know. Maybe it's just my
It's your seminary training.
my seminary training, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get to the 5th century BCE.
Yep.
There, then you've got the Parthenon that shows up, the temple to Athena, the ancient Greek things, your gateway, that kind of a thing. There's your Odeon is way over there on the far right. So, and then you get to the heyday of the place, which was 2nd and 3rd century CE or 2nd and 3rd century AD. You've got your theater. You've got a much more developed Odeon,
Yep.
and a lot of the structures. Actually, some of those you don't see there anymore.
Yeah,
So,
right.
And then up there in the upper left-hand corner, that's the Areopagus. That's where Paul preached over there. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
it was
was
built
the,
on a hill. Yeah.
that was the court that existed over there. So yeah, so it wasn't just a rock when he was there.
Right.
I'm just gonna back up for a second just to see what it looked like beforehand. Yep,
Oh, okay.
that's the
Yeah.
rock right there. Yeah. So, and then even before that, just a
Yeah,
rock.
just
so.
a rock.
And then this is the 15th century. So this is at the beginning of the Ottoman Empire,
Before the gunpowder.
before the gunpowder. Yeah. So, yeah, and you can see how sort of the, you got that castle type pattern along the top of the walls there. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting to see. So remember we pointed out the top of the
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So this is what was in there. They were kind of statues built in, and so these are just shown. So I believe this is Athena and Apollo, Zeus. So fighting over the rights to the city, and it did become honor of Athena. So that's Athens. So I believe that's part of the story. But there's a whole. We didn't get a chance to do a lot of research. There was also issues. In the next one, you'll see Poseidon and Athena had a tiff at some point as well. So, but goes down. You can see the horse and all the tells the whole story. So the east, Parthenon. So.
And the figures that are more prominent back then are the ones that are towards the center.
Right. I
And
think
they
you
do
can
the
guess
figure.
this is Cupid. Yeah. So there's the four horses here. I thought that was kind of interesting. I wonder if that's where they got the idea in Acts, or the four horses of the apocalypse.
Apocalypse,
Yeah. So 4 horsemen of the
So.
apocalypse.
It's an image that people would have known back then because
Yeah.
it's here, for example.
Yeah.
So,
So
and then this is the other side.
This is the site with Athena fighting. Oh no, it was Athena fighting with Poseidon over the naming of Athens, being named for her, I think.
Yeah,
I
this
will
is
have
it-
to
this
look
is
that
it
up.
here.
I think that's why, yeah. So, so there was tension between, because this is Poseidon, as you can see, or whatever his Neptune. I think it might have been Neptune if it was Roman. Yeah, at this point. So, but yeah, all the different the story that is being told and the relief. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's so neat.
I will
Yeah.
have to look.
I mean, if you really got into the weeds in this museum, you could have easily been there all day, just digging into things.
Yeah, there was
But,
a lot of.
after
Must have been
17
genetically ingrained in those people to be able to make statues like that. Don't you think? What the heck? Do you know anybody who can carve like that?
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know one person. Or, you know
Well,
what I mean?
they had schools where you go and learn this trade, and
That's what you
and
learned.
the
You didn't
skills are
waste your
passed
time on
down.
calculus.
Yeah.
Hey, they can teach me something, but be able to do it that good. I'm just saying, wow,
Yeah,
there's just something about those,
Yep.
that group of people.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you spent your whole, you'd begin learning a trade at like age 7, 8.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there was a marble works in the area, so
Yes.
there was stone there that would
Correct.
be conducive to this type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So,
That's right.
so very cool. Okay.
And one more stop. We made it. Actually, there's a few more pictures after
Or
this.
pictures
but,
after
yeah.
this.
So this is the Panathenaic Stadium. The stadium that we know today that we just showed you. It's a multi-purpose stadium. This is the only stadium in the world, out of all the stadiums that we saw up to this point, this is the only one built entirely of marble. All the other ones were built with different.
Or stone and then marble on top
Yeah.
to save money because it was too expensive to do pure marble. Tells you how rich Athens was.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So built around 330 BCE, rebuilt in 144 when the Romans came into power, and then it was abandoned in the 4th century, and that's when the Constantine and Christianity became a big influence, and they decided at the time that you know what, we don't really like the blood and gore of the gladiators and chariot races and all that kind of stuff that ancient Rome brought with it. So we're not going to use the stadium anymore. So just kind of abandon it and let it just sit there. And you know, it kind of gets weathered over time. Maybe it gets buried a little bit. You know, maybe a random farmer might come and plant some crops in the middle of the stadium, you know, that kind of a thing. Again, 19th century, apparently it was a great time to dig these things up. So they excavated this again in 1869, and then they had it ready in time for the first modern Olympic Games in 1896.
Yeah.
So this is where a lot of the early, the first modern Olympic Games. And it was also a venue, if you remember watching on TV the games in 2004, when they were in Athens. So this is where I think the marathon had its perhaps start or end there, and they had some archery competitions and things like that in there too.
Our daughter was 1. We wouldn't remember those
No,
Olympic Games at all.
No idea.
No idea
Yeah.
what happened in
It was a
2004.
thing. So, and then every modern Olympics, this is where the Olympic torch relay starts. They have a ceremony there, and then the torch goes off to wherever it's going to be. Which in 2028, I understand, is going to be in LA, Los Angeles. So this is where the torch is going to get its start to come over here. So.
Yeah. Oops, sorry,
Oh,
you hit the button first. Go
Okay,
ahead.
that's all right. So that's the stadium, kind of from a distance. This was a really quick bus stop. We were rolling down the street and they're like, "Hey, anyone want to see the Olympic Stadium?" And a few of us were like, "Yeah, sure." It's like, "All right, you got 5 minutes, go." So we really stopped quick and got a couple shots of it anyway. So that zoomed in right there with your Greek and Olympic flags and the rings there on the far end. They gave me a medal.
You got a participation medal. Yay.
Yeah, I got a sticker that said "You did it."
Yeah.
That's about it. So
So,
yeah,
pretty neat.
yeah, pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Yep.
And then just some other just random pictures from around the city that we just happened to snap while we were walking through. This is a Greek Orthodox church that we got an opportunity to go in and check out while we were walking along there. So that's the interior of it. Now, this is not my picture, and you know how? I'm in it. We're in it.
Both of us are in it, so who took the picture? Yeah,
Yeah.
our photographer guy.
Our photographer took that.
So in weeks past, I mentioned, or at least I think last week I mentioned about how in the Greek Orthodox Church you don't see the altar, right? So here you can really see the separation of the the rest of the sanctuary and the altar, where the altar is for the priest only. So, and the host actually comes out through this tiny little window, the host being communion. But you can see how ornate and stuff. It's not just a veil, but it's a whole wall
Yeah.
almost separating the people from God.
And at the time we were in there, that's just natural light in there, by the way.
Yeah, there was no, they didn't have the lights on,
Yep.
but just very ornate,
Yeah.
Orthodox,
So,
very different.
where they read from and where they preach, do they preach there?
Yeah,
see,
this is
see
the pulpit.
there on the side?
I think Pastor Rick needs one of those.
Yeah, we need to work on that.
You
It's
guys
our
want
next
to look at
step.
him like that?
Yeah, that's right. They need to be up where the cross is. No,
Right.
no.
Ha, ha, ha.
So do not. Do not do that.
Yeah.
No, so, we've seen a rooster once or twice along our way. We saw one carved into the stone last week over in Philippi. Way back when we were in Acropolis, where the white travertine cliffs were, they have a statue of a rooster there. And this is actually a mosaic. Of all places, this was our hotel lobby.
This is our hotel
floor.
lobby.
Yeah.
I love
So,
this. I love
yeah.
this mosaic.
And we've been scratching our heads like, oh yeah, rooster is such a big deal over there. Well, it turns out a rooster is a symbol of renewal, healing, fertility, and dawn.
Because
Because
Rather than,
because it's tough on Greece. Yeah,
dawn
because it
is
wakes
tough
you up.
on
Yeah.
Greece.
And if you had a rooster crowing in your ear, yeah, you probably think the same thing. So, but it's also associated with Zeus and Apollo and another god named Asclepius, and is also linked to the rising sun and the awakening of the
we
dead.
saw it at the
Yeah.
Asclepion,
We saw it at the
which was
Asclepion.
which was a healing center that was in what was Beora? Is it Asclepion? Was that the two that were next to each other?
Pergamum.
Pergamum and Asclepion was down in the healing center.
Yep,
So
yep. So
yeah.
anyway, yeah, Asclepius is the god of healing, and was sometimes depicted as a rooster, and roosters were ritually sacrificed to him. This is the bird had a role in guiding souls to the afterlife and bringing the dead back to life too. So that's another symbolism of the rooster. And again, we talked about being in the morning.
Yeah, the rooster kind of heralds the day coming
Yeah.
on, and
Yeah.
the call was thought to chase away the evil spirits of the night.
Yeah. There's one myth that says that the god Ares punished a man named Electrion by turning him into a rooster, ensuring that he would always announce the rising sun with his crowing.
That would be a way to torture you.
That would be a way to torture me.
Not a morning
Make me
person.
get up with the sun in the shoe. We'll see about that. So yeah, and it's a sacred animal, seen as a protector against evil and darkness and all that. So it has a lot of significance in ancient culture here. So, and that Greek word down there, kyrie, hello. That's all that means. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
kyrie.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we liked walking over that
Yeah.
in the lobby.
So-
It was a nice. I definitely would recommend this hotel. We liked it a lot.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
down the street,
Yeah,
we
Paul
found
was
Paul's.
here.
Paul was here. Patisserie bakery. So they had some really beautiful looking stuff in there. We were so full. We didn't buy any.
We
But
just thought the name was pretty.
we
neat.
thought the name was pretty cool. Paul stopped here, and he did. So yeah.
And then on some of the other streets as we're traveling through town, we noticed these couple of places.
So
Yeah.
Grumpy Cat Coffee. So Grumpy Cat, yeah, they could use that in Greece because it's not copyrighted, but here Grumpy Cat is copyrighted in the U.S. So they can get away with it there. I wish I'd stopped there and gotten a mug or something, but we were never close enough for one for me to go to. And then so Barf Mart, it's one of those things that doesn't translate.
Guess not.
Barf, you know what barf is to us, right? Barf is food in Greek. So the dog here is saying,
All is pet food.
my dog is saying, my barf, please. And if you knew our dog, you'd find it very amusing because, yeah, she's like, ooh, the cat threw up, yay, you know. That's not food, Cookie.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah, some dogs are pretty bad.
So it was an interesting attempt at English translation.
We're not sure why, or if they just did it for the shock
Yeah.
effect. But
Yeah, maybe they actually knew what they were. I don't know.
yeah, it's funny because it's barf.
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 Yeah.
So I don't know. It was I laughed. So then one of our friends on the trip had gotten sick the night before and wasn't with us on the bus the first time we saw Barf Mart. And so I sent him a text and said, we found your place. Maybe they can make you feel better, because he was throwing up all night.
Yeah.
So he had enough of a sense of humor that he thought it was funny.
Yeah, it was a Good thing we ate dinner beforehand.
Yeah. And then our seminary professor, Mark Vitalis Hoffman, told us about this place.
Yeah, so Athens is the political capital of Greece, right? So there's government buildings and establishments and things like that. So not too far from our hotel, there was the Greek version of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So that's what this is. So like what we have here at Arlington National Cemetery, this is right here in the middle of downtown. So you can actually go there and see the changing of the guard that happens several times a day. And so we had the opportunity just to walk over a few blocks and check that out. So and the solemnity and the choreography may not be the right word, but the movements, the uniforms and all that, it's all very intentional.
So you can see the dress uniforms are kind of leggings and things, and then they have these dress shoes with big ball type, the puffy ball things. What do you call those?
Pom-poms?
Yeah, they're kind of
Yeah,
the
it's
pom-poms.
kind of like what you have in your winter hat.
Kind of like what you have on your winter hat. So,
Not
and then
quite
this
like
is
that.
what the soldiers normally wear, the fatigues, stuff, the everyday wear. Then that's the dress wear they wear for this. So yeah, it's very slow. It's almost you have to have a lot of leg strength because they lift their legs. See how the legs lifted up? They go like this slow. And I'm going fast. I mean, it's really really slow. So it's really cool. And if you go on YouTube and you search for Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Athens, you'll find some videos of them doing the changing of the guard, which is really cool. And then, so there's another shot of that. So I'm just gonna go back. So we got closer, and the guards going, you gotta move back. You can't get too close. So they don't have like a rope or anything. They've got guards there that say you're too close, step back. So they won't get you any closer
There's a
than
line
where.
on the ground, I
See,
think.
there's like a white line.
Yeah.
Right here, a marble kind of line. So
Yep.
yeah, so you couldn't get any closer. But that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So. And then
so that's the view from our hotel, actually, if you go up on the roof.
there's a
rooftop
rooftop restaurant and rooftop breakfast. Breakfast was a thing of beauty up there. But yeah, at night it turns into a bar / dining room. So we were able to go out on the open air patio and take a couple pictures. And that was the first picture you saw too, where I had my hand like this. That was the night we took that.
Yep.
So totally worth it. So the restaurant's name is
Olive Garden.
not to be confused with the USA Olive Garden. It's actually just the name of their restaurant because
Yeah.
olives are big.
No soup, salad, and breadsticks.
No
in
soup,
it.
salad.
Actually, their food was better. I
Their
think.
food was way better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their breakfast was just beautiful.
Yep.
So yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we had a question, and I thought about this actually before it was asked last week. How far did we go? And being a geography major, my bachelor's degree, and I was like, okay, well, I like maps. I can figure this out. So I went through it and kind of added up all the miles that we did over the course of, let's see, since from home to home, was like 19, 20 days or something like that.
We left on the 30th of December and
Yep.
got back on the 20th,
No,
19th.
it was like the 17th or the 18th.
I think it was the 19th, but okay.
Yeah, maybe the 19th. I don't know.
We got back on the 19th.
I didn't know what time it was.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I think we landed on the 18th, but went home.
Yeah.
the
'Cause remember,
19th
we're like
anyway.
7 or 8 hours ahead of here.
It was 3
so,
weeks.
yeah.
3 weeks.
Yeah, just about 3 weeks. So anyway, we had to drive down to Dulles Airport in DC because you couldn't get a flight out of Buffalo to go to Istanbul. So you had to drive down there. So that back and forth, that was like 780 miles. Okay. Flying from DC all the way over to Istanbul, which was like, 11, 12, 13 hours or something
Yeah.
like that. That's 5,500 miles, give or take. And I'll also add that on, we had to go from Istanbul down to Antalya, which is that very first place that we saw way back on week 1. There's 5,530 miles.
Yep.
And then the one probably most of you are curious about, how long were we on the bus?
A long time.
We were on the bus, so this is 3 different maps because Google only let me put so many stops in. So we started down in the way lower right-hand corner
See,
there.
right here's the star.
That's
start,
Antalya, and then we snaked our way up through the Turkish mountains and hit the Travertines and
That's
Ephesus
right.
and all that. Wound our way up past Troy, up in the upper right to Istanbul, and then we worked our way towards the left and hooked our way down towards the lower left, on down through Greece and Philippi and Delphi and Corinth, and eventually wound up in Athens. And when you add that all up, it's about 1,800 miles that we were on the bus for.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, we didn't do all that in one day.
No, obviously.
Maybe that.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Obviously.
The most we were ever on the bus at one time for, and we did take frequent rest stops, because we had to. So we're only on the bus for maybe 1-2 hours a shot. The longest day we were on the bus was maybe 4 hours.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
a rest, I mean, it was kind of comical because our guides would tell us, well, we'll stop in 2 hours for, restrooms. And wow, I'm just so not used to having somebody tell me when the next restroom's going. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's traveled with lots of groups that need every 2 hour restroom breaks. I'm like, wow, okay.
I
I'm
don't
used to
announce
holding
that on our
5-6
family
hours because Rick won't stop for nothing.
I don't announce that on our family trips. Maybe I should start doing
we do
that.
not. We're like, we'll hit a
So-
point and we'll say to the kids, you need to speak up, but now they.
And on that 1,800 miles, we visited 42 sites.
Wow.
So you saw 42 different sites in the past 5 weeks. And then the flight home, which got interesting. Most of you know this because this is my first sermon back. Talked about our flight home with, was it a radar problem or a rudder problem for the airplane? You were awake the whole
I was
time.
awake.
I was taking a nap, and then she woke me up. It's like,
Come on, be afraid with me.
yeah, be afraid with you, right? Yeah, that kind of a thing. So it turned out it was a radar problem in Istanbul. So we flew out of Athens up to Istanbul, circled around a few times, but then they're like, nope, you're not going to land here because you're also getting low on fuel. You need to go get some more. So we had to take a detour back down to Izmir, which is a city in Turkey, which is where Smyrna is. So we got to see Smyrna one more time, almost.
Not really.
Not really. They kept us on the plane. And then we flew back to Istanbul, and then we were fine getting in there. And luckily, we already had a pretty long, layover built in Istanbul, which we ate most of it up doing this detour, going back down to Izmir and back. So
You were calling the kids and we're like, I don't know if we're ever going to make it home. We're in Izmir, but okay.
yeah.
You can survive another day, right?
So that added 600 miles on the trip. So that got us up to 5990 coming back home. So grand total of all the miles that we did, and again, this is within, say, 100 miles or so, 14,000 plus miles we did all the way along. So, yeah, it was a hike.
lot.
It was a hike.
Yeah.
See, I got the impression that you had that problem with the plane when you went over. You
No,
No, it was on the way back.
home.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it
the
probably
last-
is better because,
It was.
Yeah.
You might have thought this trip is doomed.
Right. We
Yeah.
were delayed leaving about an hour
Yes.
out of Dulles, but and then we missed the first connection. But the nice thing with that was there were every hour on the hour flights to Antalya.
Istanbul to Antalya.
Yeah, so they just put us on the next flight. And they actually escorted us to the next flight so we wouldn't miss it. So it was kind of, one of the nice things about the group travel was we were such a big group, they didn't want to have to rebook us.
Yeah.
So they were making accommodations at left and right.
So when we got to Istanbul airport, they were taking us through places you never normally wouldn't see in an airport, going through all these different doors and passageways.
Yeah, we're like,
all that kind of
whoa,
stuff,
are
like,
we allowed that?
okay.
Okay, we're following the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an experience.
It was interesting.
So,
Yeah.
which it made it a lot less stressful because
Yes,
we
very much
didn't have
so.
to worry about it. Our group had to worry,
Yeah,
so.
definitely. So that was before the radar problem.
Yes. See how happy I am?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to
Like,
want
time
in
to
the
go
picture.
home. So-
We're gonna die. No. Do I email the kids? What do I do? Rudder problem. Yeah, rudder problem sounds kind of serious. A radar problem sounds kind of serious too, but it wouldn't have
Yeah.
scared me as much because
I don't know.
pilots should be able to land.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, go back to my sermon from late January, and you'll get the story again. So.
Well, from his perspective, he was
From my
asleep.
perspective, yeah. It was great up to a certain point. Yeah. So that takes us to the end of our journey here. So, do you have any questions as we wrap up here?
Would you do it again?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. We were talking about it. Should we go and do this same tour again? And I'm like, well, we noticed different things, but yeah, I kind of feel like we should do something new probably
Yeah.
for the next one. We'd like
what?
Italy has been on my radar a long time. I want to see Pompeii, and it's funny. I've said to people, I don't know if I want to see Rome, and I was like, you gotta go see Rome. You gotta see the Sistine Chapel, and okay, fine. But I would like to see a lot of Italy. And Laura, our daughter, went to Venice during her April break when she was in Spain, and she said it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Not so much, but just all the waterways, not just the,
Yep.
so,
Yeah.
so a lot
And
of
then
Italy.
maybe do like a Reformation tour through Germany
Yeah,
where,
that's
where Martin
another one.
Luther lived. That would be neat to see someday, I think. Yeah.
So we'll start saving up.
Yep.
Start saving up. Yeah.
So.
I'm really glad that both you got to go on this trip.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I know you were looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a privilege to be able to go. So.
I hope you
And have
get more
congregations that were so
coming
supported with us going.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That was
yeah,
a true
yeah.
blessing.
And it's been really heartening and amazing to see all you that come here in person in the morning and the evening, and then noticing there's more than 2 people watching online. So that's been good.
We
too.
were surprised. I was like, this isn't going to be interesting to anybody. So thank
Sure
you.
enough. Sure enough.
Thank you.
We kept it interesting.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for making us do that. It's been fun.
And any last questions? All right. Well, just a reminder, you can go online and see all 5 of these now at any time if you ever want to go back and check them out, or
Audio on the first one's not great.
Yeah.
So you could, the audio, us talk. I guess you can't hear me very well, which is fine by me, but
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, we got better at doing these as we went along. So of course the last one's probably the best one, but anyway. So so just search for Trinity Akron on YouTube, and then you can go and find they're all there, ready to go for you. So. If you want to hear, dad jokes about Dawn in Greece again, or you missed the cat pictures, that kind of a thing, go back and check those out. So, yeah. And then before we wrap up with the Lord's Prayer, just a quick thank you from us.
Yeah.
For supporting us on this journey and coming along for the ride here the past 5 weeks. So, and learning a little Turkish and Greek along the way too.
so Teşekkür.
Teşekkür and Efkaristo.
Efkaristo.
Yep. So there you go.
So those are thank you.
In 5 minutes, we won't remember those.
That's okay.
Don't worry about it. That's okay. No worries whatsoever.
Teşekkür's really stuck in my head, and Efkaristo, but Ola Kala, which is all good.
Olakala.
I like that.
Yeah.
So great. Well, let's do the Lord's Prayer. Invite those who would like to rise. Those who can't are welcome to be seated for the Lord's Prayer, whatever works.
Yep.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.